really pleased to be here with you, and we would like to start off by saying that we wish the NDP very well on this national SPP tour that's being kicked off tonight. It's very necessary. The word is getting out, but it needs to be taken across the country, and we're very pleased that the NDP is taking the initiative on this area. In the last 3 days, we have together struck another blow against yet another lethal free trade initiative in North America, the Security and Prosperity Partnership. I don't know if you had a chance this morning to listen to the CBC morning show on Ottawa, the Ottawa CBC morning show, but they featured Tom Bacchino, I guess at about just after 7 o'clock this morning. And many of you know that he's the chief honcho over at the Canadian Council of Chief Executives, and he's one of the main attack dogs for the corporations in pushing free trade, and particularly now the SPP forward. He's a funny guy, you know. He's there is a script for people like him, and he tries to follow it, but his ego gets in the way. So the script is, what you tell people is that there's nothing much happening. You know, we're tinkering. There's a few regulations that need to be improved so that trucks can get across the border a bit better. You know, don't worry. Why should there be public discussion? It's boring. Unfortunately, this morning when he was trying to give that message, at the same time he was trying to say, but I am one of the principal people who started this. So, you know, he got caught in the little contradiction there of saying, well, the SPP, it's mine, and that's very important. And then he remembered the script at that point. So it was the most hilarious interview, I thought. Common Frontiers is a network of organizations from across Canada that includes labor organizations, church faith-based organizations, student organizations, environmental organizations, and others. And we are one of 4 such networks in North America. We have a sister network in Quebec, and we have also sister brother networks in the United States and in Mexico. We have been working on, the Common Frontiers has been around for over 2 decades now, and we have been fighting with our other networks, the free trade agenda in North America. And by way of perhaps introducing a slightly wider picture on the struggle against free trade, just want to tell you that after the work that was done by many people in the early 90s to try to stop both the free trade agreement with the United States in the late 80s and the NAFTA in the early 90s, the next agenda that came forward was, let's push a NAFTA onto the rest of the American continent. And that's when the idea for the FTAA, the Free Trade Area of the Americas, was born and was then actively promoted. And I'm ashamed to say that Canada was one of the most active promoters of the FTAA in our hemisphere. At that time, these 4 networks that I've mentioned immediately went south, and we started talking to our contacts in various countries in Central, South America, and the Caribbean. And within a period of about 2.5 years, networks were set up in every country in Latin America and many countries in the Caribbean. And shortly after that, in 1998, at that time, the new Hemispheric Social Alliance was born. Now, of course, we can't take the credit for a lot of things that have happened, particularly in South America, but certainly these organizations that were set up in various countries, particularly in South America, have been key in pushing for changes in who's representing them in governments. In some cases, they've thrown people out. In other cases, they've simply voted a different type of party into power. And I think many of you have heard now that about 7 or 8 of the countries in South America have a completely different agenda than they did 10 years ago, and they are coming together in forming a union of countries to start to push away from the Washington consensus of the mid-90s. So a lot is happening there, and some of these networks are behind what is happening, and they're continuing to push those governments in a direction away from free trade and what we call the neoliberal agenda. Just to say that we have issued a statement, and actually our Mexican sister network brought our attention when we were putting this joint statement together on 2 areas that maybe would be complementary to the ones that Peter has already mentioned in terms of what's happening under the SPP. One of them is, I know this may sound a little arcane, but nonetheless, there is a working group on rules of origin. And that was started actually under NAFTA and is continuing to go. And as far as we know, we understand they were reporting today in Montebello to the 3 heads of state. And what this working group on rules of origin, if you understand that components, if you track components as to where they're manufactured, the bottom line is, if it's manufactured in your country or in your neighborhood or in your community, that's where you're going to get the jobs. That's the bottom line. But this NAFTA working group on rules of origin have actually been trying to do the opposite of what it sounds like they should be doing, which is they're trying to see how they can get cheaper products from elsewhere. So their latest report, we think, because of course some of this stuff is relatively secretive, but we understand that the latest report is going to be suggesting that Canada, the United States, and Mexico, who've signed free trade agreements with other countries, other bilateral free trade agreements, for instance, with Chile, Central America, South Korea, that they would allow components in from all of the free trade countries that have signed these agreements as if they were from Canada, the United States, and Mexico. So you can understand what this might do to manufacturing, further do to manufacturing in those 3 countries.